This is Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin, positively connecting the less connected, bridging gaps, and building futures in the community. Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin.
Hello, professionals. My name is Ricot Aladin, and I'm the founder of Professional Launch and the host of the Professional Launch Show on WDRY here. Today, my guest is Eric Krueger. He is the co-founder of Stratacom, and he is here for a conversation. But before we start the conversation, I want to answer a question that I get this morning from a young man who asked me, what should he say if they say that they can't hire him because of lack of experience? And he caught me off guard there. But the first thing I told him is, you have to convince the interviewer that they are investing in who you are today for who they want you to be in the future. And if they ask you about, more question about that, what you should do is try to convince them, even though you don't have work experience, but in college, what you did was you work on projects where you develop some of the soft skills, like working in team, do your fair share of projects. And that will at least improve your chances for them to say, okay, maybe they will give you a shot. So, tell them that you are flexible and you are adaptable, you will have a good attitude, and so that they can, reconsider. Because I know some of you are frustrated. Sometimes you apply, they say you don't have a degree, and then you go get the degree, and then they say you don't have experience. So it's always best to phrase the answer or your comments as they are making an investment in you that will pay off because of the skills that you have been able to acquire. Now, I promise I will make a video on that question. So follow Professional Launch on social media to find out. When I drop that, I will let you know. Now, Eric, if you have, before we start our conversation, if you have anything to add to that, please do.
Rico, you're 100% right. So as someone who hires people, we're a small company, like less than 20 employees total. So I don't look for their traditional experience because we've had to fire a lot of those people that came on with the traditional experience. So we're looking for someone who's curious and who's motivated and who will
hungry to learn
and will do what we do. So some of our best employees, we're in the IT space and we do consulting in IT, but some of our best consultants, and we've been around, since 1997, but some of our best consultants had no or very little experience in IT. So we've got, a guy that just left after almost 20 years. His degree was in biology. He had a master's, and he worked in a lab, and he got sick of it. And he was really good at the time at computer stuff when we hired him. And he was by far and beyond one of our best consultants we've ever had. We've got a physics major. We've got people that have never gone to college. We just have a wide array of people. And so when we're hiring, we're not even, experience is nice, but for us, sometimes the experience costs too much. Like a really experienced consultant might command a very extremely high salary. So a lot of times it works out better for us to find somebody who's willing to learn, will do what we tell them, will take the time to learn, who will work on themselves, and I'll hire that person without experience over somebody with experience who just won't get the job done every time.
Yeah. Anyway, this is what the show is about. And thank you, Eric, for adding more to that. And I interview a lot of professionals who are in the recruiting world, where they are looking, people who hire people, fire people. One thing they say sometimes, it is hard to untrain someone who has been doing things a certain way, and when they come in, if they have a new talent, someone they can start from scratch, not only from scratch, but someone they just almost mold into what they want. Sometimes that is a way better investment than someone they can try to fight them to learn something new. So now on to our conversation. Eric, you are the co-founder of Stratacom, and you started back in 1997. So please tell me a little bit about how did this get started?
Well, the three founders we all started with a company called SEI that moved here from Chicago, and it was a help desk. And I was in college, one of the other founders was in college, and then the third founder actually moved here to run like the operations side of of the help desk. And then we all kind of went our separate ways. But during that time at the help desk, we had started to work with the help desk software internally that the help desk used. And when I worked there, two of us actually got sent on consulting projects. So my first consulting project I ever worked on was Monsanto down in St. Louis. Oh. So I went to their corporate headquarters. I think they had about 30,000 people at that campus at the time. And we implemented their at the time it was just help desk. So we implemented their help desk software for them. And that software vendor actually kind of recruited us to start this company because we did such a good job at Monsanto and the other company we're at. And so we started this company, and one of our first projects that we worked on was the Iridium satellite network. So Iridium was a company founded and backed by Motorola. It became Motorola. And they had a $10 billion budget, and they blew through the whole thing in 3 years and ended up shutting down shop. And the government now runs that Iridium satellite network. But that was one of our first big projects. And we set up call centers for people that had Iridium phones to call for help. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Maitland, Florida, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Sydney, Australia. So they had the kind of a follow the sun model for support where people could call. And like if you were on a cruise ship, and at the time these phones were extremely expensive, like $5,000 a phone. Like if you dropped your phone in the ocean, like they would fly a helicopter out to the cruise ship and give you a new phone. It was it was crazy. Yeah. So that was our first project, and then from there we just kind of grew. We hired the people that we knew. That at the time, that software was being sold to a lot of large companies like Best Buy, the FCC. Who else did we target? Just lots of very large corporations back then that we ended up doing implementations for their help desk on.
You know, as you're describing this, one thing I keep thinking about is sometimes I wonder what, how does it work for founders? When do you know that you should, get going on this? You should try to do something because I don't know. I want to know how does it work for founders? The founders, what makes them different to start a business? What makes them start sometimes? What do you think? How does that work?
Well, you have to be a little brave, right? Because it's a little scary to leave your corporate job where you're making a nice salary and have all these benefits, and maybe you're doing some really cool stuff. So you have to be not afraid to take that step. And in our case, it was a little bit easier. We didn't have to come up with any money to start this company. We had this software company that really wanted us to start it and really wanted us and was handing us work essentially. So kind of an unusual situation to start a company. So it was a little easier choice than just going out and starting fresh. Now I will say in the last 20 plus years, we've had to start fresh because software vendors, almost every software vendor we've worked with has gotten bought and the software has been killed. So we've had to start over basically.
Wow.
We still have our customer base, but now we're learning a new software, learning how to sell it, learning how to implement it properly. And so we've had to start from scratch, and it's expensive because you have to train up all your staff. Your consulting work slows down for a while as you're transitioning people to the new software. So, but like for us, the scary part was leaving the jobs and kind of starting. Like I had a great job at a bank where I was doing some really interesting things, and the CIO at the time, his name was Randy, and I told him I was leaving to help these guys start this company, and he told me, all the this was in 1997. All the software that's going to be written has already been written, because he thought I was going to a software company, but we're actually selling other people's software, and that's what he believed. Like he believed, like, hey, all the software that's been written, you're not going to be able to write software and sell it because everything that people need is out there. That was back in 1997. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Like all the changes since then. So,
yep.
So I think mostly just bravery. And I always tell people, like, 'cause I've had lots of people tell me, like, oh, I've always wanted to start my own business, but I just don't have a great idea. And I'm like, if you have, like, the odds of you succeeding with a great idea are low. You need to do what other people are doing, like plumbers, electricians, auto mechanics. Like those are the businesses to start because everyone needs those. Those are the easy businesses. So if you have a skill, like my daughter is a hairstylist, and she worked at a salon for a year and a half, and now she's going out on her own, and she's renting her own booth and opening her own space. And it was scary for her, and I didn't push her either way. I just told her, you don't want to look back and like I wish I would have done this and never had done it. So I said, if you feel comfortable with making that move, or even if you feel a little uncomfortable, like you should probably do it because you don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have gone out on my own, or I wish I would have done that, and then had never done. Because as you get older, it gets more and more difficult because you get the kids and you get a house and you get, and at the time, none of us had kids. I think maybe I had a house. I might have been the only one, but we just didn't have a lot of like life to pay for. We were pretty free and young. We were in our early 20s essentially. So.
Wonderful. So, I think it's time to take a break. But when we come back, I'm gonna ask you what makes a good IT consultant. Not just technically but relationally. We'll be right back. We'll take a short break. Hello, we are back. Today, my guest is Eric. Eric is the co-founder of Stratacom. It's a pleasure to have you on the show because of what we are doing with Professional Launch, and us trying to create a mentoring platform for college students, young professionals to connect with experienced mentors in the community. And you're in the technology world. We can always use your wisdom and with tips and tricks to make this better. Right before break, we were talking about. I had a question. What makes a good IT consultant? Because that's you, not just technically but relationally. What do you got?
So the most important thing to us is the experience that the customer has with the consultant. So the personality. Does the consultant ask the right questions? Are they easy to get along with? They can't be pushy. They have to have a helpful soul or help. They want to help the customer. So a good example is one of our longtime employees. His name is Tim. He's been with us. He was employee number two. He actually left for a while to teach school in West Fargo. He taught chemistry. He came back, but I ended up hiring his son, kind of part-time at first because we have our own software products that we bolt onto these other products. And he had gone to a couple years of college, didn't know what he wanted to do. Was working at a golf course as landscaping at a golf course, basically grounds maintenance. And I hired him to do these implementations of our software, and I kind of trained him. And so he's been with us for a few years now, and we just shifted him into like our core consulting group of like our Atlassian products. And one of the other owners messaged me just yesterday and said, geez, Connor is like really good with the customer. The customer is Columbia Sportswear that we're working with. And I was like, oh man, the secret is out. Like I'm going to lose him now to our core consulting business. So, but he didn't really have any IT background, didn't really know a lot about programming or what we did, but he had the ability to learn, and he's very conversational, asks great questions. He's really easy to get along with. I have gotten compliments. He's worked with American Airlines. I got a letter from a director at American Airlines basically telling me how lucky we were to have him on staff. And just 2 days ago, I was on the phone with another big company, about 30,000 employees, based out of Canada. And he said, oh, I can't believe Connor wasn't on the line. He said, I can't believe how good Connor is. And, so that is what makes a great consultant. You don't have to be that technical. Like, we have people that can help with the technical side.
Yep.
Like, if you're implementing software for us or helping to sell it, we can train you to do that. We can help you with all the technical bits. You just can't train somebody to be nice, to ask probing questions, to be curious, to be thorough. Those are all traits that people have. Maybe they learned them growing up, but once they're an adult, it's almost impossible to instill those values in someone. So you have to hire somebody with those because that's the hard stuff to train.
Yes, it is hard to train people to be nice. They can fake it for a little bit, but it's not gonna last because it's not in their nature.
Right. Yep.
Man, this is why we have Professional Launch. It's now young folks who are watching this, or someone who's gonna see this clip, they have to touch them a little bit, because in the field, when you have a computer problem or black screen or something like that, and then on the other end of that, you have a technician or someone who's talking to you who have no patience, who can't seem to, be patient with you because you don't know. It looks so easy for him,
Yeah.
but getting upset and so on and so forth. If you cannot put yourself in that person's place to be able to work with them and help them navigate that moment, because a black screen can ruin somebody's day depending on what they have going on for the day. So I took that example because I remember having Kevin Lenners on. Kevin Lenners say something that I never forget: killing them with kindness.
Yeah.
And when you are on the phone with that person that is who's experiencing that moment of things are not working, this is the last thing they want, is a technician who is not patient with them and not, cannot try to understand where they're coming from. So, you work with some major companies like 3M, Delta, United Healthcare. You mentioned American Airlines. What lessons have you learned? What is one or a couple lessons that you've learned navigating those large organizations?
Yeah, the large companies are difficult, especially now. We don't work with as many large companies as we used to. A lot of the large, like say the Fortune 50 or maybe even the Fortune 100, they're so outsourced to like the big consulting firms now, like the Agilons and IBM Global Services and HP Global Services. So, but it really comes down to, like American Airlines bought some of our software. It's a bolt-on to other software that they had. It really just comes down to the personal relationship you can make with the people that you're talking to. At American Airlines, we're not talking to the CIO. We're talking to a director who's maybe 4 or 5 levels below the CIO, because our software, it's not multi-million-dollar software they're buying from us. It doesn't, so they can pull it out of their budget. So you make a relationship with that level of person. So typically when we're working, even at like with United Healthcare, we made a connection with the admins of the software that we ended up implementing for them. And they were the ones that recommended us over, at the time, IBM Global Services, who was going to charge probably 10 times more than we charged to do their implementation. And honestly, they would have paid more, to do that implementation. But we came in and we proved that we knew what we were doing, and we made great relationships with the people that had to manage that software moving forward. And so we got a strong recommendation from them. So a lot of times, even though it's a large company, like we worked with Thomson Reuters and they had 250,000 employees. I went to a campus with 30,000 people on it in Minneapolis. But even then, you're working your way in through relationships that you've made, maybe at a trade show or something else, with a very low-level person. Maybe the help desk manager, maybe it's a like ITSM director or somebody like that. But they're the ones that make the recommendations a lot of times for who to use for project work, or if they're going to buy software, who do they want to do the demo. So even though it's this big behemoth of an organization, a lot of times you can get into those organizations like as a sales team, or for us, we're selling a lot of services, a lot lower than you would think.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's good to know, because usually you think that just, talking to the president of the organization might be better than having someone at a much lower level. You're saying sometimes.
Yeah, the problem, like if you're talking to an American Airlines or United Healthcare or 3M, like the top people of that company, they don't want anything to do with you. They might have 1,000 or 2,000 software titles or 5,000 software titles in their organization, and you're working with one. So they want nothing to do with that. They don't have time to talk to every single vendor. So you're way down the ladder. Now, with a small healthcare company, maybe a hospital with 13 hospitals, yeah, maybe we're talking to the CIO there, because they're much smaller. It's much more impactful for that CIO. Maybe they only have a portfolio of a couple hundred applications, and they want to be involved when they're choosing software. So it really depends on the size of the company, kind of where you go in it, and try to make those inroads.
Wonderful. So I want to remind the listeners that those who want to be watching this, that Professional Launch is a nonprofit organization, and therefore we heavily rely on guests, on friends, on partners to keep our operation going, to keep the show going, and continue to work on our mentoring platform to make it available for the fall. So right now we are recruiting mentors. If you think in the fall you might have 1 to 3 hours to spare, go on professionallaunch.org and click on the platform button to sign up as a mentor. We could use that to help others, young professionals, identify a career path, find a career path, or even if you have opportunities within your company that they can pursue. So go on there, professionallaunch.org, and click on the platform button. And like I said, click on the donate button and see all the way you can support professional launch, whether it's volunteering, whether it's financial, whether it's in kind, your gifts, they all could help us get a little further in what we are doing. So we thank you so much for that. Now, you working with those organizations, Eric. What's one surprise? I think that you could say that's a surprising challenge that sometimes folks at the lower level might get you more business than the person that is at the top. But what one challenge that comes with working with those organizations?
Usually for us, it's project start, like getting the project going, because they have to be really involved. And a lot of times their team of people, the projects that we're doing is kind of in addition to their normal duties. So getting the information that we need to do the project, like for example, they might set up a service catalog where an employee can order a new laptop or access to software, and that catalog might need things like approvals. Like if it's over a certain dollar amount, this person has to approve it. So like getting those business rules that they actually need, we need access to like the intelligence of the people inside that organization. And that's a lot of times the hardest thing for us to get is time with those employees. And I will say the larger companies are better at that because they will put business analysts dedicated to projects. Smaller companies, maybe 2,500 to say 20,000 people, they don't really have that concept of a business analyst for a project. You get like the person that's doing that thing. So you have to get their time in addition to all the other things that they're doing. So to me, that's like the technology is pretty simple to implement. It's pretty easy to manage these projects, but getting those people's time to get the information that we need to really help them, that's the hardest thing.
Wonderful, wonderful. So right now in your role, how do you balance, the technical part with the strategic part of your role?
So I'd say in the past we were more technical. Like people would bring us in for our technical skills because a lot of the software is difficult. And now I think we're more strategic. We're guiding customers where to go, like looking at their roadmap of what they want to do, like what are they doing in asset management, what are they doing with the service catalog, and we're helping them do that. We're still doing the technical part, but that part's getting easier and easier, especially now with AI can do some of it for you. So the technical part, in my mind, and going into the future is going to become less and less important, and kind of this this directional consulting, like what are the best practices you should be doing? What are other customers doing that was successful? Kind of that holistic consulting is going to be more and more important in the future. So that's what we're looking for now. Our consultants that aren't necessarily technical because we can cover that. We can help them with that. But we're looking for people who are like curious and ask good questions and are nice and can see the big picture.
Okay. So, I was going to ask earlier is, technology changed so fast. Every day there's some new things out there. Right now, what are some of the emerging technologies or frameworks that you are excited about?
So, yeah, technology has changed. We typically work with just a few vendors, and so their technology doesn't actually change that much. And we're solving the same like business problems we were solving 20, 25 years ago, like hardware asset management, people storing assets in spreadsheets instead of databases. But the emerging technologies that are really like everybody's trying to do something with AI right now.
Yep.
And that's even changed our business. So I'm in charge of our add-on products, so all our development. And I used to work with a developer who's great. He's a great friend of mine. He's an excellent developer, probably the best developer I've ever worked with.
Okay.
But now, and he built these products for us, and they're fantastic. And I used to use him, more, and his time was harder and harder to get because he's building his own products. And the AI is really changing. Now, I can do, even though I wasn't familiar with the technologies he used, it doesn't matter because as a product manager, I can just tell the AI what to do, and it does the technical work. So AI is the emerging technology that's going to change everything. So, like, you're not going to know, in 5 years, you're not going to have to know how to code. You just won't because the AIs will do all of that for you. So it could be a totally different skill set. You'll have to learn to work with AIs better.
Wonderful. You have to learn to work with AI. Yes. And this is one thing that, I had a series on AI a few months ago, and that's what everybody keeps saying. those who don't learn to work with AI will be left out. So we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk about mentorship because this is what the platform is about. We'll be right back. We are back today. We have Eric. Eric is the co-founder of Stratacom, and we're having a fantastic conversation here. About IT consulting. That was the last question. We're talking about emerging technologies, AI, and as I mentioned before, break, if you are young professionals graduating from college right now, you are not learning a little bit about AI, you might be falling behind, my friend, because this is, like Eric mentioned, in 5 years, everybody will be relying or will have something to do. All businesses will have something to do with AI, right? So, as I mentioned before, this platform, the professional launch platform, is about mentorship and professional development. So, when guests come on, my question is, have you had a mentor in your life? And if so, what are some of the lessons, what are some of the advice that you have gotten from your mentors?
So I'm the oldest of four. So I have not really had a mentor. And I had never really searched for one. I understand the value of it now, and probably maybe would have gone a different path had I had a mentor or done business differently. So I wish I would have had one, but yeah, I've never had one. I can't even say I've really mentored anyone other than our employees, right? I've never really. There's been some.
That leads to the question. So, do you mentor? How do you mentor the next generation of leaders in tech right now? Because you are in charge of the company, and that's got to come natural to you because you know the value of it.
Right. Yeah. It is. We look for employees. We've got employees who are like natural leaders, and we try to groom them to lead projects and do things like that. So. It's tough. You have to have someone that wants to change. Some people are just natural leaders, but it is a lot of work to learn about leadership and do that. So you have to have someone who actually wants to do it. Like 90% of being successful is actually wanting to do the thing that you're going to be successful at. You can't be a successful leader if you don't want to lead. If you just don't want to do it, I can't force somebody who I think had got great leadership qualities into being a leader if they don't want to do it, because chances are they'll be a terrible leader if they don't want to do it. So
you touched on something that I really like. And I was going to ask you, what does success look like to you today, based on what you say, in order for you to be successful? So what does success look like to you today?
For me personally, success is freedom. So freedom to take off whenever I want off my job, to do what I want to do in my company. That to me is success. I don't want to be doing things I'm not doing sales. I maybe would be a good salesperson. I have the skills for it, but I do not want to do it. So I'd be terrible at it. So
why is that?
I just like to do other things. I like building. I'm a builder. So I like to build. I do projects around the house all the time. My wife and I built this shed at our lake home, 12 by 14. I love doing that type of thing. And with the software, I love building software. I've always built software. I love building something tangible that somebody can use. I don't like selling things to people. Like to me, it just doesn't give me.
You build it and then somebody else sell it.
I build it and somebody, I might be part of the sales process. I'm a lot of time part of the sales process, but I'm not selling it. I'm just showing them how it works, showing them what the advantages are, telling them how it'll make their life easier. But to me, the satisfaction, internal satisfaction, comes from building something for a customer that works and makes their lives easier.
Wonderful. So, I got this question that I want to ask professionals. It's really, how would you suggest that a college students seek mentorship? I have the platform, and sometimes it is hard. We have some videos on there on how you should conduct, how you should have the first meeting, second meeting, and so on and so forth. But I'm curious to hear from other professionals who know the value of mentorship. Either they have a mentor or they've seen mentorship in action, and would advise those who should seek some kind of mentorship so that they help them launch their career. So what would you tell them?
So I think the number one thing is just don't be afraid to ask.
Okay.
just if you see someone that is successful in a line of business that you want to do, just call them or send them an email or stop by their office and just say, hey, this is, would you be willing to talk to me about this for, an hour a month for the next year? Or because, and I think that's the hardest thing, that initial ask is I think the most difficult, because you don't want to be rejected. And you might be rejected. They might say, no, I don't want anything to do with you, but somebody will.
Yeah.
And in the Midwest, people are generally helpful. So if you talk to 10 people in the Midwest about mentoring, probably like 8 of them would be open to it, And because successful people who are successful at their jobs or careers, are generally helpful, because people like to do business with those types of people. People like to work for those types of people. And those types of people, they have friendly personalities. They're smart. They ask good questions. They value their employees and their customer base. So they're generally helpful people, you know. So those are the people to seek out, and the hardest thing is just asking. And then
don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Man, if I tell you, that's an advice that I have gotten from many folks, and I can see that, great leaders think alike. I have this same, Dr. Krueger was on the show, I think 3 years ago, say the same thing. Don't be afraid to ask, ask for help. That's the other part of it. Ask for help. When you ask for help, ask the right question. And so if you could give one piece of advice to a young professionals trying to balance ambition with purpose and passion, what would it be?
You got to find something you love to do. That's it. And you'll know if you love it or not. If you wake up in the morning and aren't excited about it, find something else.
Okay.
Because I guarantee you might be successful at it, but you'll hate it, and you'll hate your life. You need to find something you're passionate about and you love. And the way you can tell if you're passionate and love it, if you wake up in the morning and you're looking forward to doing it, that's what you should be doing.
Wonderful, man. This is right. Now we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we will talk about your philanthropy and Friends of Chimbote.
Chimbote.
Chimbote. Okay. Chimbote. That's the right word for it. We'll be right back. We are back. Now we're going to talk about, Eric's favorite part of the conversation. We're going to talk about his work in Chimbote, Peru. Oh, right. My goodness. Okay. Every time I say this word, I kind of, I don't say it right, but yeah. But before we start the conversation, I want to remind you, if you are listening to this conversation, if you love Professional Launch, if you like what we are doing, if you like our mission, if you like the fact that we are developing a mentoring platform to connect college students with experienced mentors in the community, we are just talking about the value in mentorship, the importance of mentorship. We advise you, we would like you to have your support. Find us and connect with us and see how you can support our work. Because as a nonprofit, we heavily rely on guests, on friends, on partners to continue our operation and also to continue our work, to do our work. So we thank you so much in advance for your support. And also, if you are a young professionals in the community right now in this region, and you have 1 to 3 hours to spare in the fall, I would really love for you to go on our website, professionallaunch.org, and click on the platform button, and then sign up as a mentor, to volunteer as a mentor to help us support young professionals who are launching their careers. Again, we thank you so much for that support. Now, Eric, you have been with Friends of Chimbote for a while now, right? 9 years on the board and 3 years or 4 years as part of it. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my 3rd or 4th year as board president.
Okay.
Yep.
So you've been on the board for a while. So
yeah.
What first connected you to the mission of Chimbote, Peru?
So just a little history of that. So Chimbote, Peru is about 260 or 280 miles north of Lima. And it's a little fishing village of about 400,000 people right on the coast in Peru. And in the mid-1970s, I believe 1977, there was a devastating earthquake there that killed like 80,000 people. It almost leveled the entire town. There were mudslides because the foothills of the Andes are right behind them. So one of the local priests and sisters from one of the parishes here in Fargo went down there to do mission work in the late 70s. And that priest stayed down there, and it was just kind of that parish that he worked at doing this mission work. And then he started bringing Americans down there to visit the people of Chimbote who were so impoverished because of this earthquake. And then they don't have a lot of, that part of the Peru is really in the desert, right? So they don't have like fresh sources of water, and the main industry there is fishing. So they do a lot of fishing there. So just in our church, somebody said, "Hey, we're going to Chimbote, Peru. Does anybody want to go?" And my wife and I were newly married, 1999. We'd been married a couple of years, as February 1999, and we said, "Yeah, let's go check it out." And my wife's parents had given to that mission since she could remember. They would get letters from the priest there at Christmas, and they would send money to help the people of Peru. So we went in 1999. My wife we went in October of 1999. My wife was pregnant. With our oldest daughter at the time. And we got to see, even in 1999, the unemployment rate in Chimbote at that time was 90%. So it's severe poverty. A lot of people lived in what they call estera, which is just woven grass. So estera huts, basically, they get like a half an inch of rain there a year, but sometimes they might get a 2-inch deluge and it just ruins all the homes there. So that was our first experience with it, and we started becoming more involved. Then we had kids. We didn't go back, and then somebody asked me if we went to all that. They used to have galas, and we donated money for there. So they asked me if I wanted to be on the board in 2017, I believe. And so I was like, sure. So they have a board meeting every year in Chimbote. So now I went myself the first year, and that brought my wife and both kids in 2018, 2019, and then the last couple of years, my family's gone with me too. So now it's a family thing. My wife is new on the board. I'll be rolling off in October off the board, and we started doing basic humanitarian aid, feeding the hungry, taking care of the sick, giving people scholarships to go to school because you have to pay to go to school there. So. We end up helping a lot of single mothers with kids, and that's really evolved now to working. We're working more with the community. We're doing water projects. We're bringing running water to these neighborhoods that didn't have water before. We're doing bigger projects like that, like building preschools and then working with the city to staff the preschool. So we're doing lots of capital-like projects to make things better. And so the parish where that started, it's really been effective. Like the roads are paved. People live in brick houses now. And now, we have to drive 20 minutes to find the poor. So it's been a really effective mission in that area that we've served. And now we're trying to serve more areas. So we've got about almost 20 people on our board from all over the country. This mission is really spread. Virginia, North Carolina, Chicago, Minnesota's big, and North Dakota. And we have like church groups that send missions. We send about 300 people a year on mission trips to Chimbote right now. And then we send containers there with medical supplies and beds and computers and all the different things that they need. And we employ about 85 Peruvians on the ground in Chimbote that are mostly social workers. They work in soup kitchens. They're teachers, kind of people that help. They're all helpers, right? And they help the poor. So
wonderful. I admire folks who choose to give back, whether it's in this community or choose to go travel. We have about 1 minute left for the conversation, but I really I applaud you for doing this, because you won't see how good you have it until you see some of the situations, some of the circumstances that some of the situations that people have in different parts of the world. And sometimes I think this is where we have to be grateful. I am grateful for folks who support me here, but also choose to support other folks in this thing. So we have under 1 minute left for the conversation. Eric, thank you so much. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to say a last few words for the conversation, and then we can end the show. But thank you again for being on the show. You have 20 seconds. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for having me. This was super fun. I can't wait to mentor some kids. I'm also going to use it to try to recruit some. We're growing now at Stratacom again, so I'm going to use that opportunity to mentor and maybe recruit some new employees from some of the schools around here. So I'm really excited about your mentoring project, and I know it's going to do a lot of good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Eric. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day.